Hello everyone, are you in love? I'm using 9 psychological proven principles to decide on whether you're in love or not in today's video. Hello everyone, as we spoke about in the video, we're going to find out if you're in love. We're going to define love a little bit and work out the difference between infatuation and love. I'll share some personal stories and we'll go through 9 psychologically proven questions to find out whether this is real love. And as always, I'm going to start with a quote, and that quote is, "Love is, of all passions, the strongest, for it attacks simultaneously the head, the heart, and the senses." Lao Tzu. I'll read that again. Love is of all passions the strongest, and I would agree with that. I think love conquers every emotion. It attacks simultaneously the head, your thoughts start racing, the heart, and the senses. Everything feels better when you're in love. It's an incredible emotion, and quite often I've heard it, I've heard it said that when you fall in love with someone, what you really do is you see the real them. And wouldn't it be beautiful if we could all see everyone like that? I think when you meet spiritual people or really amazing people, I think they see love in everyone. And I know for me, falling in love is just one of those incredible, amazing experiences where I connect with someone's soul. Obviously, there needs to be a level of attraction, a superficiality that draws you to that person, and that's very complex. A lot of women assume that guys want, nice bum and big boobs, and guys think that a lot of girls might be after a chiseled jaw and perhaps a good job and some money. It's not that simple. It is unbelievably complex, and you should never be ashamed for who you're attracted to, because things like biological signatures, for example pheromones, the way someone smells, will attract certain parts of the brain that logic will define. We all know someone who we say, I don't know what you see in that person. Attraction is a very special thing. It's very unique. So when you're attracted to someone, you should treat that as a very special sign that part of your physiology, your DNA, the repeating double helix bonds in your body, would like to meld with those double helix bonds to create more life and more love. It's a really, really special thing. And you're driven as an organism to be in love, and create new species. For me, I really respect love, and I'm very careful and precious of it these days. I understand that you only meet probably a handful of people that you'll be able to love in your life, because it requires so many complex factors. And when you meet them, you should really be open and communicate about it. Unrequited love, or the people who sit in corners and stress about the person, whether I should talk to them or not, that's all crazy. You know that at the end of the day, that's something that you'll completely regret. One of your deathbed regrets will be that you've never chased the real people that were important to you in your life. So how do you know if you're in love? Well, these are 9 questions psychologists use in order to determine that factor. And the number 1 is you're addicted to this person. So the number 1 sort of bullet point to whether you can tell whether you're in love with someone is you're addicted. Now, the same chemical markers and the same areas of the brain that light up during cocaine addiction light up when you think of someone that you're in love with. It's an absolute infatuation period. Now, you can't keep this up in the same way you couldn't keep up doing cocaine for 6 months or 6 years in a row. Ultimately, you can't keep up this addiction, but it is real and it's very, very strong. So the addiction, as we all know, you don't want to leave the house, you don't want to go on holidays, you don't want to be too far away from them, you keep looking at your phone. That's real addiction. You see junkies looking at their phone wanting the next hit. You see people who are in love looking at their phone just wanting that next text. Number 2, you celebrate this person's triumphs even when you fail. Now, this is one of the signs that you're really in love. It's very easy to pat people on the back. However, sometimes we are a little bit resentful of other people's successes. So when someone is successful in something that you haven't been in and you celebrate that, that's a true sign that you're in love. It's one of those things that flow out of you when you're truly in love. Number 3, you definitely like this person and this person definitely likes you. Love requires 2 people, and most of my relationship counselling with people involves how is this person behaving and how are you behaving. And if you're both not behaving and making a great relationship, that's all you need to know, because ultimately 2 people in love will make it work. They'll put aside their petty differences and they'll be able to get things happening. But when one person isn't in love anymore, that's where all the problems start. No one wants to admit they've fallen out of love, so quite often that manifests in arguments or really petty things, but ultimately both people need to have equal value on each other. Number 4, you genuinely miss this person when you're apart. I've said quite often the quote, you'll never love someone as much as you'll miss them. And the idea of missing someone is a true indication that you're in love with them. If they can go away for a couple of weeks and you only think about them a few times, I can guarantee you that you're not in the chemical state of love. 5, your sense of self has grown knowing this person. So they've built you up, you feel more confident, you think you can take on the world. And that's a classic statement by people in love. I can take on the world, I can get anything done. Quite often you see when people fall in love, they quite often get promotions or they take on big challenges. Men quite often will get a sense of self-esteem that they'll take on into the world. It's a really beautiful thing, and if that's happening to you, that's another indication that this is love. Number 6, you get jealous, which is okay, but you don't get suspicious. Now, jealousy and suspicion don't have to go together. Jealousy simply means that you're really, really interested in this person, you don't like the idea of them being with someone else. In fact, one of the number 1 tools that psychologists use in order to work out whether the relationship's over or not is they ask both parties, think about this person with someone else, and they get them to rate it. If the person thinking about their partner being with someone else rates under a 5, it means they're not in love. So it's a key indicator that if you don't want to see that person with someone else, it's true love. However, you don't get suspicious. Now this is where insecurities come in. It's okay to be jealous, but once you're suspicious that your partner is doing something, that's generally insecurities and not love. And number 7, you project a future. So not only is this person important to you, but you've created a future around that person that may involve things like getting married, children, holidays, families, vacations. Now that projection will be a clear indicator that you're in love. However, one of the things I would warn against is that projection can be incredibly painful. When I talk to people who are going through breakups, and quite often people contact me at the lowest point in their life, and that's during a breakup, it's not the breakup that gets them. What really, really hurts is they lose the mental construct of what that relationship was. They lose the trips they didn't go to Hawaii. They lose the fancy wedding that they never had. And that's one of the key tenets of owning your mind. Projecting to the future is only helpful when you're using key planning parts of your life. Constantly projecting fantasies will only lead to disappointment. The world will never deliver to the same expectations of your fantasies because the world's way more vivid and way more detailed. Your fantasies can never be lived up to because ultimately they're just vague concepts. For example, the ideal wedding. The ideal wedding may be it's a nice day, you have a beautiful car and everything goes well. A day can't go like that. A day is much more detailed and ultimately little things will happen to get under your skin. So remember, when you start projecting, which is normal, you'll be projecting onto this person, try and pull it back. Try and understand the present moment is the only place you can have the relationship in, and the only way you can improve the relationship is in the present moment. All the projections and fantasies you make pull you out of the present moment and create anxiety and pain, as they do with everything. We talk about a lot during the 1 Year Life Transformation Challenge about projections, past and future. In relationships, this is one point I will stick to. Careful with your projections. Because 2 things happen. 1, those projections become stressful because you want them to happen in a certain timeline, and we all know that. We have people pressuring each other in marriage and things like that, not because they have to, but because they see it in their head so clearly. And 2, ultimately you make that person into someone perhaps they're not. Perhaps that person isn't a great communicator, but you project that one day they'll be able to get it together and they'll be a great communicator. So if you break up, you don't only break up with the bad communicator, you break up with the good communicator too. So it's a real double whammy. So this is what psychologists and the questions they use to work out what love is and whether someone's genuinely in love. Ask yourself these questions, think about these and apply them to the past relationships. There have been past relationships where some of this has been missing. Now, it's important to remember that at the start of the relationship, we always focus on what's good about the person. At the end of the relationship, we tend to think about the bad things about the person. But ultimately, with some perspective, we can see and learn from our previous relationships to create new, spectacular ones. If we're not learning from our past relationships, we're doomed to repeat them. So have a look at these. I like talking about love. I really enjoyed this video, and I can't wait to see you tomorrow for the next installment of the 1 Year Life Challenge. Goodbye.